DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Central Beirut hit as Israel vows very strong response to Iran. Many countries push for citizen evacuations amid rising tensions in West Asia. India launches pilot project for PM Internship Scheme to boost skill development with financial assistance of 5,000 rupees per month for each intern. 10 million young individuals will get the chance to intern at 500 top companies over 5 years. Thousands in North Carolina still without water and power days after Helene's destruction. Biden and Harris visit Hurricane Helene sites. Indian state of Bihar battles worsening floods affecting nearly 1.5 million people, while in neighbouring Nepal, the death toll climbs to 233. Tensions are escalating in northern Israel as rocket sirens blazed across the region on Thursday. The Israeli military has confirmed that around 25 rockets were fired from Lebanon into the upper Galilee. Now, this latest flare-up follows an Israeli airstrike on Hezbollah facilities in southern Lebanon that killed 15 operatives. Now, the IDF has issued a warning of residents of over 20 or more towns in South Lebanon to evacuate their homes immediately. Concerns over escalating tensions in West Asia have sparked global airline disruptions. Multiple international airlines have suspended flights to the region or altered routes to avoid affected airspace. Indian flag carrier Air India has suspended flights to and from Tel Aviv until further notice. The Algerian airline Air Algerie suspended flights to and from Lebanon until further notice. Also, Latvia's Air Baltic cancelled flights to and from Tel Aviv until October 31st. The Spanish airline Air Europa cancelled flights to Tel Aviv until October 7th. Air France also suspended Paris to Tel Aviv and Paris to Beirut flights until October 8th. UAE's Emirates cancelled flights between Dubai and Beirut until October 8th. Amidst heightened tension between Iran and Israel, Gaza and Lebanon, efforts for stopping the conflict turning into a regional war has started. Also, Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, has said that he will continue the initiatives for peace. G7, India and Russia too have called for restraint and engaged into talks by all concerned parties. Let us get you more in this report by Akhilesh Suman.
A day after Iran launched about 200 missiles targeting Israel, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian landed in Qatar to consult and consolidate support in West Asia. He met the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, and said that Tehran does not look for war.
We are not looking for war. It is Israel that forces us to react. Israel assassinated our guest in Tehran on the presidential inauguration day. What we want from US and European countries is to tell the entity they have planted in the region to stop the bloodshed.
Pezeshkian is considered a liberal among the Irani politicians and is keen to have good relations with the West. He urged the United States and the European countries to dwell upon Israel from destabilizing the region. Emir of Qatar is playing a role of the mediator between Hamas and Israel. He said that Doha would continue its mediation efforts to end the war. He also reiterated the need for a two-state solution for permanent peace in the region.
We reiterate that the two-state solution and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital is the key to achieve a durable and lasting peace in the region.
Meanwhile, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni held an emergency meeting of the G7 nations on Wednesday, and leaders in a statement said that a region-wide conflict is in no one's interest and that a diplomatic solution is still possible. US President Joe Biden also urged Israel to act proportionally against its regional arch foe. On Wednesday, Biden also said that he would not support any Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear sites in response to the ballistic missile attack.
We'll be discussing with the Israelis what they're going to do, but all seven of us agree that they have a right to respond, but they should respond in proportion.
India has also urged all concerned parties to maintain restraint and has pushed for diplomatic efforts to end the war. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
Ahead of the first anniversary of the October 7th attack by Hamas on Israel, the country's ambassador to India, Reuven Azar, said that the attack has strengthened Israel's resolve to neutralize the Hamas threat.
We were surprised on the 7th of October, and the nature of these atrocious attacks that included rape and burning and killing of entire families and killing of children in front of their fathers and hostages that were taken. This shocked us on the one hand, but on the other hand, it made us very, very determined to fight the terrorists, very determined to neutralize the Hamas threat. And our government was very clear about that. So we have seen that Israel's society raised up to the cause. And we are fighting the terrorists, and we are sure we are going to prevail.
The Israeli ambassador hailed the Indian government's stance, particularly Prime Minister Narendra Modi's strong leadership against threats to humanity.
We are very encouraged by the approach of the Indian government, especially the approach of Prime Minister Modi. We are thankful for that. We think that we have to have leaders like him that have conviction, that are strong against this threat on humanity.
Also, on his first foreign visit, newly appointed NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte held a joint press conference with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv on Thursday. Zelensky discussed the battlefield situation and Ukraine's victory plan with the NATO chief. Pledging continued support for Kyiv, Rutte vowed to help shore up Western support for Ukraine. At least 12 people were injured after a Russian-guided bomb struck a high-rise apartment block in Ukraine's Kharkiv late on Wednesday. In the overnight drone strikes on 15 Ukrainian regions, several commercial and residential buildings were damaged. Power lines have also been damaged in 3 Ukrainian regions. Also, Ukraine claims it shot down 78 out of 105 drones. Rescue operations are underway in search for those trapped amidst the rubble. In light of the ongoing attacks, President Zelensky emphasized on the need for increased assistance from Ukraine's Western allies. The Russian Defense Forces on Wednesday claimed control of Verkhny Kamenskoye settlement in the Donetsk region. Russian military shot down 32 Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles and targeted Ukrainian military personnel and weapons in the area. Typhoon Krathon has killed at least 2 and injured more than 100 as it made landfall in Taiwan on Thursday. Strong winds and torrential rain slammed Taiwan's Kaohsiung. 178,000 homes have been left with no electricity in the island's east, and winds with speed of 220 kilometers per hour unleashed on the island, disrupting traffic. Domestic and international flights have also been cancelled for the second consecutive day, and schools and offices along with financial markets also remain shut. Over 10,000 people have been evacuated, and the government has urged residents to remain indoors. Krathon made landfall as a much weaker Category 1 typhoon. Six days after Hurricane Helene slammed into Florida, it carved a destructive path through much of the U.S. Southeast, killing more than 160 people. United States President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris also visited South Carolina on Wednesday to assess the damage brought in by Hurricane Helene.
President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris visited South Carolina, North Carolina and Georgia on Wednesday to see firsthand the devastation brought in the U.S. Southeast by Hurricane Helene, which has killed at least 160 people. Earlier this week, Trump visited Georgia. Presidents and presidential candidates usually do not visit a storm-hit region immediately because of fears they will distract from rescue efforts and divert resources from local law enforcement officials and emergency responders. But the poll season has altered the matrix. More importantly so for the candidates and the political parties, North Carolina and Georgia are among 7 key battleground states in the November 5th election, which is expected to be won by thin margins. Biden landed in Greer, South Carolina, before boarding Marine One for an aerial tour of the region. From the helicopter, Biden could see the grim devastation brought to parts of North Carolina, including Asheville and Chimney Rock. Many of the people living in the area remained cut off from contact with the outside world, even as the U.S. president passed overhead. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris visited Augusta, Georgia, to meet with victims and announce federal funds to cover local costs following the storm.
The President and I have been paying close attention from the beginning to what we need to do to make sure the federal resources hit the ground as quickly as possible. And that includes what was necessary to make sure that we provided direct federal assistance.
Former President Donald Trump, a Republican running against Harris in this year's presidential election, has falsely claimed that Biden, a Democrat, has been unresponsive to the hurricane's destruction, an allegation local officials deny.
In a moment like this, we put politics aside. At least we should put it all aside, and we have here. There are no Democrats or Republicans, there are only Americans. And our job is to help as many people as we can, as quickly as we can, and as thoroughly as we can.
Before leaving Washington, Biden directed up to 1,000 active duty troops to help with response and recovery efforts. Almost 6,000 members of the National Guard are deployed across the 6 states affected by the storm. Biden will head to Georgia and Florida on Thursday. Harris will travel to North Carolina in the coming days. Hurricane Helene slammed into Florida on Thursday as a powerful Category 4 hurricane before tearing a destructive path through southeastern states for several days. Bureau Report, DD India.
In Nepal, the death toll from the recent floods and landslides has reached 233, while 22 others are still missing. At least 169 people were injured in the disaster. According to the Home Ministry, 17,120 people have been rescued so far from flood and landslide affected areas. The government has given high priority to rescue and relief efforts and is working to repair the disaster-hit highways and operate the means of transport by creating temporary bridges on destroyed bridges due to floods. While in India, Air Force helicopter conducted relief operation in flood-affected Bihar's Darbhanga. The district administration too delivered relief material to the affected people. Due to waterlogging in schools, 107 government schools have been asked to remain closed till further orders. However, it is a matter of relief that there is slight decline in the water level of Kamla, Balan and Kosi rivers. The flood water level in the village has also decreased during the past 2 days. National and state disaster forces teams are also deployed in relief and rescue operations. Assisting them are the NDRF and district administration, coordinating efforts to ensure that relief materials are efficiently delivered to those in need. Up next, we get to some other news from across the world. In a deal with Mauritius, Britain agreed to give up the sovereignty of the Chagos Islands, allowing displaced people to return to the islands. The agreement followed after rounds of negotiations and international pressure on the UK, ending years of bitterness over the disputed colony. 4 journalists were tried in Moscow on Wednesday for links to the late Alexei Navalny. The journalists were accused of involvement with an extremist group linked to the late dissident. If convicted, they might get 6 years in prison for each. 25 police officers were arrested in Guatemala for involvement in a human trafficking racket. 2 of the arrested officers were retired. Nearly 10,000 migrants are believed to be exploited by the alleged network. Students in Egypt face dilemma after the education ministry of the country decided to scrap many core subjects and a foreign language. The decision has highlighted the under-resourced education system while underlining students' struggle to balance education and job prospects. You're watching DD India Live. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, we take a look at economic differences between West and East after over 3 decades since reunification of Germany. Touching lives and hearts, Prime Minister Modi's monthly radio program Mann Ki Baat completes a decade. We also explore a unique film festival on environment and wildlife with the theme of Wetlands.
मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, आज विजयादशमी का पावन पर्व है। मैं आज रेडियो के माध्यम से आपसे कुछ मन की बातें बताना चाहता हूँ। मन की बात की हमारी इस यात्रा को 10 साल पूरे हो। मन की बात में पॉजिटिविटी को सेलिब्रेट करते हैं, हम इसमें पीपल्स पार्टिसिपेशन को भी सेलिब्रेट करते हैं।
Mann Ki Baat echoes with every Indian and with every Indian's heart because it's their Mann Ki Baat. It's their talk of the heart-to-heart conversation between every Indian and their leader, dear Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Mann Ki Baat.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live. India has launched a pilot project for PM Internship Scheme today to enhance skill development through a centralized online platform. Now, this platform, developed by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, will enable partner companies to offer internships with financial assistance of Rs 5,000 per month for each intern. Interns will participate in a 12-month program, giving them in-depth exposure to various industries. This scheme is part of the government's broader agenda to enhance skill development and employment opportunities across the nation. The Prime Minister's internship scheme was announced in the budget 2024-25. The scheme will provide internship opportunities in 500 top companies to 1 crore youth in 5 years. This scheme is aimed at enhancing youth employability and skills. Candidates must be between 21 and 24 years of age. Beneficiaries will get 12 months of exposure to real-life business environment. The beneficiaries will also experience varied professions and employment opportunities. Internship allowance of 5,000 rupees per month will be given. One-time assistance of 6,000 rupees to the youth will also be provided. Companies are expected to bear the training cost and 10% of the internship cost from their CSR funds. Vice President of Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Anand Goenka, hailed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's internship program. He emphasized that the program will build a future-ready workforce comprising of skilled youth.
FICCI is proud to contribute to the Prime Minister's internship scheme, which will provide internship opportunities to 1 crore youth across India's top 500 companies. They will be integrated into a corporate environment, endowing them with practical, industry-relevant skills. This will promote skill development and enhancing their employability. It will build a future-ready workforce that can drive India's economy forward. This thoughtfully designed initiative will enable industry to onboard interns from rural areas, ensuring inclusivity and diversity in talent sourcing.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's monthly radio program Mann Ki Baat completes 10 years. As it crosses a milestone of a decade, the program continues to inspire, educate and empower millions. Watch the special report by DD India's Tripti Tripathi.
मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, नमस्कार।
Since its inception in October 2014, Mann Ki Baat has become a defining platform for direct communication between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the people of India.
बेंगलुरु से सिस्टर सुरेखा जी भी जुड़ी हुई है.
I am really proud and honored, sir, to speak to Prime Minister of our country.
दिनेश जी नमस्कार.
सर जी प्रणाम.
The journey that started on the festival of Vijayadashmi has changed millions of lives. And since then, every month, millions of listeners tune in to hear Prime Minister's thoughts, ideas and inspirations that touches on a wide range of topics, from rural development and social issues to stories of unsung heroes. Broadcast on Doordarshan and All India Radio, Mann Ki Baat has become more than just a radio program in last 10 years. Whatever work is taking place in the society with a sense of collectiveness, it gets recognition through this radio program.
मन की बात के श्रोता ही इस कार्यक्रम के असली सूत्रधार हैं. मन की बात की 10 वर्ष की यात्रा ने एक ऐसी माला तैयार की है जिसमें हर एपिसोड के साथ नई गाथाएं, नए कीर्तिमान, नए व्यक्तित्व जुड़ जाते हैं.
What started as a simple radio program has now become a radio revolution. Mann Ki Baat reaches the nation in 22 local languages, 29 dialects, and even 12 foreign languages. Inspirational stories have been mentioned over 750 times, cleanliness campaigns around 65 times, women empowerment around 315 times. In April 2023, when the radio program completed its 100th episode, Prime Minister Modi said that any issue which is associated with the show turns into a mass movement.
मेरे लिए मन की बात ये एक कार्यक्रम नहीं है. मेरे लिए एक आस्था, पूजा, व्रत है.
The journey of Mann Ki Baat reflects India's progress and diversity, fostering a sense of unity and collective purpose. Tripti Tripathi's report for DD India.
Today marks the historic fall of the Berlin Wall. After the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, the former socialist Eastern Germany merged with Western Germany on October 3rd, 1990. But over 3 decades later, there is still major difference between West and East. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and he's joining me from Berlin. Lars, good evening. What can you tell us about the economic differences between the two parts of the country?
34 years after reunification, there are indeed huge differences, and they've been frustrating, even painful for people in the eastern part of Germany, because they're generally poorer, there's fewer jobs there, wages are lower, retirement benefits too. All that had been promised to be raised to Western German standards. And of course, wages and benefits have indeed been raised, but not yet to the level the West has. And one can easily say that people in the East didn't think it would take more than a generation for them to be on a somewhat equal footing. Also, and that's maybe the biggest difference, there are obviously companies and jobs in the eastern part of Germany too, but all of the big ones are in the West, including literally all 40 of those companies listed as German blue chips. Now, some would argue that it's not really about East and West here, but that the split is rather between urban and rural Germany. And that certainly is true. In fact, all the big cities are located in West Germany. Now, Berlin is obviously an exception, but then further down the list, you have Leipzig and Dresden ranking 10th and 12th. And with that, only 2 of Germany's 25 largest cities are in the East. But be that as it may, it certainly doesn't help people in Eastern Germany cope with the fact that they're still not equal to Western Germans in an economic way.
All right, thank you, Lars, for joining in. And wetlands are also called the kidneys of the landscape and provide a rich food chain, which makes them a biological supermarket. They purify water, protect shorelines, and also recharge groundwater. However, 35% of world's wetlands is lost in the last 50 years, and we need to take steps to protect them. The 12th CMS Vatavaran International Film Festival on Environment and Wildlife takes stock of this and celebrates wetlands for our common future. DD India's Anil Thomas gets us more.
The first week of October is celebrated as the World Wildlife Week. Wildlife and wetlands are two sides of the same coin. The 12th CMS Vatavaran International Film Festival and Forum on Environment and Wildlife with the theme Wetlands for Life deliberates on celebrating wetland for a common future.
We are also celebrating Wildlife Week. So this coincidence is valuable because wetlands are not only connected to us, but wetlands are connected to the wildlife.
The film festival focuses on steps taken to safeguard and create awareness about the dangers of losing wetlands and its impact on climate change.
35% of the world's wetlands have been lost in the last 50 years. India's wetlands too are under significant pressure from the human activities. Yet these obstacles can be overcome. Together as a nation, we have the power and responsibility to rise to the occasion.
The festival was launched on World Wetlands Day in February this year in Madhya Pradesh, followed by events in Lucknow and Shimla. The finale in Delhi has over 2,705 participants.
In the 12th edition, we got 800 films from 70 countries and 21 states of India. All these films were reviewed in a three-tier process. First process was done by CMS, and the second, 60 were shortlisted and given to the nomination. And the nominated films were then again given to another panel of experts who looked at and gave some awards. All the nominated films will be shown at the festival.
Wetlands are more than just swamps. They are vibrant ecosystem that support diverse life and livelihoods.
I'm very happy with the progress, especially this project is one of our long-standing cooperation. It's part of the Green and Sustainable Development Partnership between India and Germany, and this is extremely important for us.
A painting competition was held alongside the film festival. School children and youth participate to gain real-life experience.
The idea behind is just to sensitize the students towards the environment, towards the wetland, forest, like how can we conserve our forests, because they have chapters related to forests, related to climate change, and how can we find out the solutions for the same.
India is home to over 7,57,000 diverse wetlands covering 15.3 million hectares. This Wetlands for Life festival showcases remarkable films and discussions on Indian wetlands, highlighting their biodiversity, ecosystem services, and conservation efforts. Anil Thomas, DD India, New Delhi.
All right, that's it in this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. Now, this app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.